have you seen the ecosystem evolve with firms like EisnerAmper taking a plunge, setting up the India GCC?
The reason we primarily came to India was not out of need. There is a pool of chartered accountants who are extremely proficient, who are aspiring to do more. And here's a window of opportunity for them to open up the global world. I would say that India is poised the accounting capital of the world. My story is probably not the most natural one. I was presented by good fortune an opportunity to work for a fund administration organization.
So chartered accountant getting into fund administration. That sounds cool. Accountants are typically very introvert cut. We don't really see smart, handsome, passionate accountants like yourself really able to talk, communicate. We're very good at doing our job. I mean, very hardworking. But communication...
And that's why you have to take the horse to the water and make the horse drink the water.
They're way more communicative in the US teams than typically what you see in India. If we have a doubt, sometimes we are shy whether should I even raise my hand and ask the question. I'll try to figure it out, and only when it gets to a point
where I have no recourse but to go to a person. That's a very Indian.
Sometimes I nod my head and I don't know whether I'm saying a yes.
I was going to start there because right from nodding the head, I think is a big cultural shift. The way we nod our heads sometimes doesn't imply that we agree. It probably just implies that we're paying attention.
How's the energy and vibe that you see in EisnerAmper? Is that young talent keeping you young?
Oh, absolutely. And you need to be, considering all the grey hair that I have.
Well, I know you color your hair.
Yeah, you got to look wise than what you are.
And you also have a fund administration team at EisnerAmper, right?
Yes, that's bread and butter. And that's very close to home for me. We have two divisions actually within our fund administration. We have what we call a traditional fund administration, which is almost industry agnostic. But we also have another practice, which is our real estate fund administration. It was through an acquisition that we did back in 2019 that became part of our business.
How many offices do you have in the US?
That's a number which nobody can keep track of, to be very honest. With the pace of M&As that we have been doing and the combinations that is coming in, that number changes pretty much on a month-to-month basis.
How does the skill set of an individual and accountant that you hire has started to evolve or will continue to evolve with technology, with AI?
Just being technically proficient alone is not going to be enough at this day and age.
I'm like a chartered accountant, I'm a CPA, I'm like, hey, I've done it.
Yeah, you've arrived. Yeah, but really for you to succeed, there's got to be other things that you need to do. Because embracing technology, and in whatever form that might be, whether it's AI or anything else, when an Excel came in, it did not threaten the accountants. It gave more power to the accountants to say, here is a more efficient technology that is available to you for you to deliver the results that you need to deliver in a more efficient manner, in a more accurate manner. AI is the same thing. Many times traditionally, we always fall in love with the solution. What we're trying to change is not fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem.
Hello and welcome to CPAs Unplugged, the India GCC series. Over the last couple of decades, I've witnessed the growth of Indian accounting talent, from building the CPA ecosystem in India to creating STEM pathways for Indian accountants, and seeing India evolve as the accounting hub for the world. And through the series, we are spotlighting leaders who've made bold moves, who've built this ecosystem that we call the Indian Global Capability Centers. And today on the show, we've got Karthick Venkatakrishnan, Managing Director of EisnerAmper in India. Karthik, welcome to the show.
Varun, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very excited to go over the points that we want to discuss later today.
So how have you ended up in public accounting? What's your story?
My story is probably not the most natural one. I would say I started my career back in 2004. And a little bit of where I started was not from the traditional accounting space of audit and tax. I had the good fortune, I would want to say, that I stumbled upon an industry which I didn't know existed, which was the alternative investment space.
Wow.
I'm a chartered accountant by qualification. And when I did my CA and I passed out, I was looking at the options in front of me, and I was presented by good fortune an opportunity to work for a fund administration organization.
So a chartered accountant getting into fund administration. That sounds cool.
It sounds cool. That's the main reason that I took it up, because I knew what auditing was about. I knew what tax was about, but I had no clue what fund administration was about. And I said, hey, that's an area that is unexplored, uncharted. Let's take a dip into that and see what results it'll provide. And that's how I started my journey. I did my CA in Mumbai and I got my first job in a fund administration shop in Bangalore. I was 22 years old. I said, it's time to take the plunge. Let's go and see what this world is about. And it's an industry that I began to love. And over the years, that love only strengthened, blossomed. And I think 20 years later into that industry still, it's still my true love, I would say, from an industry where I belong to. But the journey has been highly rewarding. During those years, I also did my KAYA certification, Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst, qualification, which I think helped me a lot in understanding the business side of things, the buy side of things, as we say, on the prime brokerage side. It's been a rewarding journey, which then gave me a window on the opportunity to be part of a public accounting firm. So I was very lucky to join EisnerAmper in 2013. When EisnerAmper wanted to grow their fund admin practice, that's why I came in, I plugged in. And from there on, kicked on the journey from back into the accounting world of auditing and tax. So that's been my journey through the years. And from 2013, when I joined, I played on different roles. And in my current role for the last 4 years, I oversee the entire operations for EisnerAmper India. We have offices in Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and now very recently in Ahmedabad as well. So that's a little bit of how my journey has
you
transpired.
also have a fund accounting, fund administration team at EisnerAmper, right?
Yes, that's bread and butter, and that's very close to home for me. So we have two divisions actually within our fund administration. We have what we call a traditional fund administration, which is almost industry agnostic. We take care of any investment pool vehicle within that particular practice. But we also have another practice, which is our real estate fund administration. It was through an acquisition that we did back in 2019 that became part of our business. And it's a flourishing business. And we are actually in the US, we are leaders in the real estate administration space. And that's, we have built a team now of close to about 80 colleagues, primarily based out of Bangalore, but we have some colleagues in Mumbai as well that caters to the fund administration business overall within EisnerAmper.
Amazing. So Karthik, just taking a step back, right? When we look at GCCs and specifically in the public accounting space, it typically starts with a big four, right? You start with Deloitte and then EY and KPMG and PwC, and these firms, of course, have scale and employ tens of thousands of folks in their India GCCs. So how does a firm like EisnerAmper fit in, right? I mean, how was the decision to? So typically all the mid-tier firms work very closely with mid-market companies, even mom and pop shops, even of course sometimes very larger companies as well. How have you seen the ecosystem evolve with firms like EisnerAmper taking a plunge, setting up the India GCC? How have you seen the growth of your India GCC with Eisner?
It's a great question, and I think it goes back to the fundamentals of why you set up a GCC.
Yeah.
And I think we just to give you a little bit of a deep dive into the history. EisnerAmper set shows, I think, in the shows of India. We started operations back in 2006, late 2006, early 2007.
20 years, okay.
So we're coming up on the 20-year mark very soon, and we have a lot of work towards that. But the reason we primarily came to India and was not out of need. It is not that we had no choice but to come to India, but it was a fundamental choice that we made, saying based on the talent that is available here, the amount of richness of accounting talent that's available here, and what it provides. And everybody is going to talk about the cost arbitrage, and which is obviously there. But that is not the primary driver for us. It's definitely a contributor. But the way we looked at it is saying there is a pool of chartered accountants, a lot of accountants at large available in India who are extremely proficient, who are aspiring to do more. And here's a window of opportunity for them to open up the global world to them. I think that's where it started from. And the other benefit that I would say, or the other pillar based on which we made that decision, was on the fact that now we can serve our clients, or service our clients pretty much around the clock. We have our counterparts in the US who are obviously servicing the clients during the US business hours. But outside those business hours, we have now the opportunity to continue to serve our clients. And that gave us a great opportunity to add value to our clients. And when you add value to our clients, we're adding value to the organization and value to the individual. So all around is a great value proposition. That's what triggered us to saying India is a great option. And that's been our genesis of where we started our practice here in India. And of course, initially you're testing out the concept. You're testing out your theories. And we build the team, and we want to make, obviously you're going to run into certain roadblocks, but you find ways to go through that. And I think the initial years of the journey was discovering ourselves, what works well, what does not, what do we need to do better. But I think we had that blueprint, and we had that conviction that this is where this is going to work. We will need to build it up, we will scale it up, but we need to get our fundamentals right. And that's what we did. I think up to 2012, I think that's been our journey. The first 5-7 years was basically in if I have to use the term, kind of finding value in the proof of concept. The proof of concept works, and we did. And I think that gave us confidence to really propel and take it to the next stage. And I would say the next phase of the EisnerAmper India journey was from 2012, 2013 to what we did till about 2021, which was ramping up, scaling up. And from 2021, I would say is the next phase of our journey, which has been hyper growth from 2021 through 2025. In terms of rocket terminology, it was pretty much blast off from 2021, which is a journey that we continue to be on. So that's been the evolution of EisnerAmper India, and that's still remains the cornerstone of what we have built as a practice. The cost arbitrage is only a sweetener that we bring to the table,
of course,
but primarily it is about client servicing, adding value to our colleagues here in India, and being able to, I think at the end of the day, add value to our clients. I think that's fundamental and core to what we did. And that's how our practice has been built. When I say add value to our individuals and colleagues here in India, how do we able to do that? Because again, two core principles that we rely on is the fact that we are going to be doing end-to-end in everything that we do. We are going to see the entire gamut of operations that involves in an audit, involves in a tax return.
So you're not just like a back office trying to do some working papers and stuff.
Exactly. It's not confined to doing that. Yes, we do that. Obviously, you have to do that groundwork. You have
Of
to do the
course.
legwork. But it's not confined to that. You're not restricted to that.
So you're saying folks in the India office are also part of client engagements, client calls.
Absolutely. Okay. So we are in some of those cases, we are leading those as well. To go in front of the clients, to understand what their requirements are, to present our point of view. I think that's a confidence, that's a technical ability that we want to empower our colleagues to be able to go in front of a client, and when there's a technical question being posed, have the prowess, have the expertise to provide a resolution and work towards it. I think that's been our bedrock in how we have built our practice, no matter which practice that would be. That's how we have built all of our teams in that regard.
So Karthik, how many offices do you have in the US as the EisnerAmper approximately?
So that's a number which nobody can keep track of, to be very honest. With the pace of M&As that we have been doing and the combinations that is coming in, that number changes pretty much on a month-to-month basis.
What's the last guess estimate?
So I think I would say right now we are probably around 30.
So
30.
you have 30 offices across the US, and typically every office has a team. You have
Yes.
office managing partners in many cases, or functional practice partners, and you have, of course, it's one firm, but you still
Yes.
have a lot of autonomy. I mean, and India is, let's say, one unit. India also, I know
Yes.
you now have 4 offices, but India is typically
One unit, yes.
I mean, are you able to create a hub model here with your India GCC, where you have best practices coming in from all the 30 offices? Translate. I mean, how do you see that? I mean, and it's easier said than done, but
It's easier said than done for sure. And I think no qualms in terms of what that challenge that provides, but it also provides us a unique opportunity. We are in a location, or we are based in a way that we get a bird's eye view of every office, of every practice in every office, and see what's going on there.
so you have 30 offices and, let's say, 4 key practices?
4 key practices that we run. So we have our assurance practice, we have our tax. We have our outsourced practice, and we have the advisory practice.
Correct.
And we have other wealth management and other practices too that sit in the
So
overall.
the India office is working with, let's say, all the 30 offices and across all 4
across
practices?
all practices.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it gives us an opportunity to say, what's great in our New York office, and what's great in our Metro Park, which is our New Jersey office, and what's great on the West Coast, on our San Francisco office. And it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, how do they operate here? What are the learnings here? What are things that we could do on a functional basis, on a process basis, and say, these are some of the best practices that somebody is bringing to the table. We may not have it right in our own, but it's an opportunity for us to now adopt that, and probably just not adopt it for ourselves, but now kind of disperse it to across
Would
the
you go to the
offices.
Chicago office and tell them, hey, New York guys do it like this and that's better? Why don't you?
That's a window of opportunity that we provide, because we are in a pivotal place for us to be able to compare and look at us and saying, hey, this works great here. Right? Why don't we adopt this process? This solves these problems, or this process works more efficiently in this regard. So it gives us an opportunity for us to be able to compare and at the end of the day bring the best practice to the fore. I think that's what we've been able to do, and that's why I said we are very lucky. We are very lucky that we get an opportunity to look into each and every office, each and every practice, and work with different kinds of people. And I think it's just not regarding the practice alone, right? It's people at the end of the day, what they bring to the table, and gives an opportunity for us to interact with them and get kind of a sneak peek into their mindset. How do they perceive things? How do they look at the same tax return? The tax return is the same, but how do they look at that? And how do they look to deliver it? How do they interact with clients? And take kind of, I would say the best of every world that is out there, not just best of both worlds, best of every world that is out there, because we get an insight into everything that's happening within the firm across different teams. I think we are very lucky that way.
Amazing. And how's the scale up? And you said, you had an early where you were trying to sort of figure the model, EisnerAmper was trying to figure the model in India, and then growth, and then hyper growth. So, how big is EisnerAmper in India today? And
I think I think as we sit today, as I talk to you today, we are about 850 colleagues strong in India.
Wow.
And close to 500 of them are based out of very much here in Mumbai. We have about 160 colleagues, I want to say, roughly in Bangalore, about 130 to 140 colleagues in Hyderabad, and Ahmedabad, which is the youngest kid on the block for us. We are a fast-growing team of 20 individuals right now in our Ahmedabad office. So that's roughly the mix. I don't know if the math adds up or not, but that's roughly the mix of team members that we have based here in India right now. But that's not where we started from. We started obviously with zero, but our initial group that joined the team in 2006, 2007 was 6 individuals. And I'm proud to say that there are 3 of them still with the firm right now to this date. 19 years into that journey, there are 3 of them are still part of the firm. But I think going back to the question that you said in terms of how it's been the journey, the initial phase was, like I said, kind of, I would say the proof of concept playing out, and I think having our own conviction, and especially focus a lot on training as well. I think building the technical expertise, I think, was very important for us to be able to scale up. It's one thing for 10 people to do it, but when you have 100 people, when you have 1,000 people to do it, how do you replicate that and make sure there's consistency in what we deliver, especially in terms of quality? So I think that's our initial focus. So getting our foundation strong and getting our foundation built out. That's what we did back in 2012. From 2013, 2014, I think we were able to build on that foundation and lay kind of the building blocks in various departments. Our tax practice started growing. Our outsource practice, I came on board, our outsource practice started to build.
Which includes the fund administration.
Which includes the fund administration. So that's how we started building those practice. And in 2021, as you very well know, and I think it's well documented, I think EisnerAmper as a firm, I think we were path-breaking in terms of looking at the alternative ownership structure to accounting firms from the traditional partnership structure.
Yeah.
We kind of broke that mold, and we got an external investor to come in. And I think we changed the industry forever.
Yeah, and now everybody talks about, you go across conferences in the US and there's private equity guys everywhere.
Everywhere, exactly.
From a small mom and shop, small CPA firm to the largest ones, everybody's talking about.
We changed the entire landscape. And I think that brought up a change internally for us, not only to the industry. And I think that paved the phase for
that's what you call the hyper-growth phase.
Exactly. I think with the impetus of capital coming in, and not only capital, the expertise coming in from various business leaders, I think it gave us the launchpad for us to really go aggressive. Nice. We did a bunch of combinations. We strengthened in areas which we were probably not having that depth, and we added depth to some of our services. And I think we're able to provide now to any of our clients, able to provide a solution which is well-rounded, a holistic service. It's just not about providing an audit or a tax services. Now we could provide pretty much entire gamut of services, of course, keeping independence in mind always.
Amazing. So Karthik, 850 in India is a big number, and of course, and I understand you still growing. Yes. And adding more people. Now, looking at it from a point of view of, let's say, somebody who does a CA or a CPA, in India. Let's say I'm a CPA, and I have various options of firms that I want to join. So let's say if I want to come in public accounting, I have some of the larger firms who have bigger scale and lot more number of people, the big fours, and then I have, let's say, a firm like EisnerAmper, which is big. 850 is not a small number. But how do you really compare to a very large firm with, let's say, 40,000 people versus EisnerAmper with 850, in terms of GCC? I mean, so from a point of view of an accountant, what's in it for me?
No, that's a fundamental question, isn't it? I think from an every individual perspective, and a very valid one. Everyone is going to look out for themselves, and which they rightly should. The way I would look at it, and that's the honest answer, I think, is how are you looking to progress in your career? What is it that you're truly looking for? As a fresh accountant...
I'm an accountant, and I don't even know I have a good degree. I'm a CPA.
You're a CPA, you've done your qualification, you're here now, you want to build your career.
Yeah.
I think when you want to build your career, what is the core on which you want to build that? I think it's, yes, you have the big names and you have the opportunities, and the opportunities are around, no matter which door you knock on, you're going to have opportunities. The true thing about EisnerAmper is what I would say is the entrepreneurial spirit. And that's what you get in just not in EisnerAmper, I would say, maybe in also similar firms of our size, is the opportunity for you to go and really express yourself. If there are areas of interest that you would like to take up, you feel, hey, I think I'm passionate about doing auditing work and I would like to do that. And here's an opportunity for you to be part of a team and look at services, just not at one particular scope of auditing, but being able to do end to end, right from the start, understanding the business, from delivering, from planning the audit, from executing the audit, handling any escalations or exceptions that might come in, working with the client day in, day out, and for you to deliver an audit report. And just not stop there. It's not delivering an audit report is not the final step. Then how do you go back to the client and say, hey, this is what we have done. These are services that we provided. This is our invoice. Thank you for your services. And say, what else can we do? And of course, collect the money as well. So understand the entire gamut of services. I think that's very important. That's the core of what we do. That's how we add value to our colleagues, just not doing the engagement alone.
What if I don't want to do audits?
If you don't want to do an audit, well, there's an assortment of services that you can choose from. You can get into, and we have a lot of people who have done that, who have switched careers, who have found, hey, this is not my true calling. I think I thought this was my calling.
But I loved auditing. Of course, I've done articleship or whatever.
Yes, and now I would want to get into something which is different. Now I have done the audit world. I would want to get into more in the fund administration side and the accounting side. Or I would want to make a switch to the advisory side now. I think I have gained enough expertise. I think I can add more value to our clients by just not performing the audit work and have limitations on certain aspects that I would do when I'm as an auditor, which I do not have when I'm an advisor. And here's an opportunity for me to go into advisory and for me able to add value to our
clients. Is the firm
clients.
okay with that? Are you, as a managing director, okay with people trying to sort of explore, figure?
Absolutely. I think it's at the end of the day, if they are going to be adding value to themselves, they're going to add value to our clients and add value to the organization.
Amazing.
So I think it's what makes sense. I think it's not obviously to say that every year I'm going to pick and choose and move around.
Of course. I mean, I don't want to do that,
in that regard, but it's for you to say, okay, I have added value here. I have learned and I've built a lot of expertise, and I found that this is, at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy what you do, you're not going to add value.
True.
You're not going to be happy at what you do, and you're not going to add value. I think that's fundamental. And so we always provide an opportunity to say, if there is something else that's available and you want to pursue something, go for it. And we'll give you the platform, we'll give you the opportunity, and it's now up to you, and we'll give you the tools. But at the end of the day, it's also up to you as to what you want to pursue. But those options are available for each and everyone, and everyone has, and there have been many success stories in our firm who have switched careers. Who, in fact, there have been, I can give you at least a couple of examples where we had some of our folks in our shared services billing team who were doing a lot of billing work for a lot of the tax clients. They're very intrigued when you're doing this thing. What is this tax work that we're billing for? And they wanted to learn more. And so we had some of our tax colleagues take a class for them, walk them through as to what happens in a typical tax, simplistic class on what happens in a tax return, how things start, how things finish, and how it ends up in a tax return, and what do we bill, and how do we take the tax return, and how does it end up in billing. They really loved it. A couple of them signed up and said, hey, I would want to build my career in tax. And they had no background, and they were doing billing. But we said, hey, you're interested, we'll find a way. And we built a program for them, and it took time. It was an investment that we made, both in terms of time, and of course the individuals put in a lot of hard work and effort in grasping those concepts. But they spent the time, and in a couple of years' time, they were full-blown tax preparers, and they knew they were able to master it because they had the passion to learn something. And it was a great success story because they were able to transform their career. They were able to, from switching over lanes from being a billing person now over to a tax professional.
Amazing.
And it's a great indication if you are truly interested and truly passionate about what you do, and you can find new passions. So I think that's a learning that we also had, and I think we have taken that to heart and said, anybody wants to move, please, you're more than welcome.
So so let's say I'm excited now. I'm a CPA and I'm excited about joining EisnerAmper. What are you looking for in talent? How would you, let's say when you're adding the next 150 people to get to the 4-digit mark, what are you looking for in as you're scaling up in your team? What are the skills, qualifications? What are things that you look for?
The way we look at it, I think obviously the qualification, right? The qualification is where it starts with. So whether you're a CPA, when you're an accountant, whatever qualification they've gone through, that's at the core of ensuring that you have the technical knowledge and technical expertise. But fundamentally, we want to take a look at when you meet any person, or when you're discussing with any individual about their careers, is what is it they truly want. And many times they may not know what they want, which is perfectly fine because we've all been there. We didn't know it when we are getting into the accounting career, exactly how our career is going to get mapped out.
True.
But what we look for fundamentally at anybody is two things: the aptitude, and the aptitude to learn and grow, and the attitude that you carry. Those two things are fundamental for anyone to build their careers. And as long as you have the qualification, the relevant qualification, no matter what, in whatever service and whatever department that you're getting into, but fundamentally looking at those two attributes. How do I look to the aptitude for me to learn and grow? How can I enhance myself? How can I upskill myself? And I want to learn and I want to grow. I think that's what we primarily look for. And looking at people who want to build their careers here and who want to make a change. As long as you have that passion, we believe that you'll be able to succeed in whatever you do. And I think that's a very core. It may not be a very technical skill that we look for, but we look. Our intention is to look past what the qualification, what says on the resume, and look at the individual and say,
True.
What drives you,
True.
What motivates you, where do you want to get into this space.
True.
You may not have an answer, you may not have an answer, but maybe we can help figure out an answer if you don't have it.
True.
But go beyond just looking at the resume and looking at all the qualifications. Those are important, no doubt. But let's look beyond that as well. And I think that's what has worked well for us. And we've had a lot of success there when we looked at the individual and say, we may not have your career charted out on day one, but we're very confident that we'll have something figured out as we go along, as long as we work with each other. I think one other aspect which I think is very important, I would say, is communication. I think that's one of the key aspects of it, because you can have an abundance of knowledge. You may be an SME in your field, but unless you're able to communicate that in an effective manner with your peers, with your team members, or with anyone that around you, that knowledge will not yield results.
And that you talk about communication, Karthik, right? Given that the teams work very closely with your US teams and your US clients, there are a lot of cultural gaps, right? Differences between how you operate in the US versus in India. I mean, for starters, let's say the way more communicative in the US teams than typically what you see in India. If we have a doubt, sometimes we are shy whether should I even raise my hand and ask the question. I'll try to figure it out, and only when it gets to a point
where I have no recourse but to go to a person. That's a very Indian.
Sometimes I nod my head and I don't know whether I'm saying a yes. I mean, that person or that.
I was going to start there because right from nodding the head, I think is a big cultural shift. The way we nod our heads sometimes doesn't imply that we agree. It probably just implies that we're paying attention, is what we say. So I think it's from a culture and communication, I think there are definitely, I think it's very important to recognize that. I think and bridge that gap. I think on both sides to be completely fair, just not from an India perspective, from a US perspective. I think that's something that we have in terms of culture. The way we've had what we have felt and what's worked best for us is to have people get together in one common room like this. So we have encouraged people just not to talk and obviously get on client calls and have discussions and meetings on your engagements, but really spend some time with each other. I think getting to know each other.
Accountants are typically very introvert, Karthik. I mean, we don't really see smart, handsome, passionate accountants like yourself who are really able to talk, communicate. Typically, we're very good at doing our job. I mean, very hardworking. But communication,
and that's why I think you have to sometimes you have to take the horse to the water and make the horse drink the water. So I think that's what we believe is that sometimes, and that's why going back to what's worked best is we've had a lot of people from the US actually come down and spend some time in our India office, just visiting on a social aspect of it, spending some time, spending a week, spending a couple of weeks here, talking to them in person, getting to know them. What do you like? Who are you? What are you passionate about? What is cricket? Most people in the US do not identify what cricket is and what is cricket. Why everyone is so passionate about it. Getting to better understand what happens at home.
I think that's when accountants can start talking.
Exactly. So we know the topics that is get their tongues going in that regard. So I think that's helped a lot, and vice versa as well. Because when people talk about baseball, and we know how people are in terms of college basketball back in the US, they're more passionate about it than even the NBA. But how do people in India know about it? They don't want to know anything about it unless they go and experience that. So we have our, on an annual basis, and every year we look to have some of our colleagues make that trip, just to go and talk to our clients, meet our colleagues, get an understanding of what's on the ground, what works on the ground, what do you talk about, and getting to know people. I think once you get to know people, those barriers get broken. And once those barriers come down, you'll be who you are, and you'll be comfortable expressing. You're supposed to do something. I was supposed to deliver something to you. I didn't do it today, but I'm going to get to it tomorrow. Then I'm going to be upfront and
Indian
tell you
accountants
that
don't really do that. They're like, I'll work all night and get the job done. Instead of saying, I'll do it tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow. And that's something we have to say. Hey, one of the biggest things that we are looking to teach is...
We don't know how to say no.
How do you say no? Exactly. I think that's a very, very important trait in a respectful manner. It's not about saying no, in a respectful manner. And saying, hey, no doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it. It just means that here are the other options that I have to get it done. So I think that's something that you have to feel comfortable. You do not feel obligated, and you have to say, this is what I'm not able to do this because of XYZ reasons, but here are the reasons why I will get it done by tomorrow, by this time frame, whatever that might be based on the context of the discussion. But those are some of the things that we have worked very, very hard and very focused to make sure that this happens. And there's a lot of time, money, and effort that's put into these practices, but it is important and it has paid dividends because sometimes it's very difficult to measure how that happens. But when you break those barriers, when you build that comfort level, nothing else, more than anything, bring those comfort level, it gives us massive opportunities. You have the confidence. It's one team. If I'm a manager of a partner sitting in the US, I know that I have a team that's sitting in India who's pulling in the same direction, in the same pace as a team member would be sitting right next to them in their offices in the US. I think that brings a lot of confidence, and that brings a lot of comfort, and it brings a sense of belonging as well from all team members, that we are part of one team. And yes, we may have geographic distribution, and we may have different teams and different policies based on the location and what works in India and what the regulatory framework works in the US. But leaving that aside, we are all one team.
So just taking a step back, Karthik. So now, if I'm an accountant in India, right, and I have two broad tracks in terms of working, right? One is, of course, let's say working for a CA firm, which is predominantly Indian clients,
yes,
doing audit for Indian clients, tax for Indian clients, or advisory for Indian clients, versus, let's say, I work with a firm like EisnerAmper or any of the other GCCs where I'm providing the same services,
yes,
audit, tax, advisory, fund administration to US clients. How different is the experience? And you've done both, and of course in your articleship you're working for an Indian CA firm,
correct,
and now you're working with EisnerAmper, where your clientele is you're a CPA firm now, and your clientele is US companies. I mean, what difference do you see there?
I think it's core in terms of, there's a lot of similarities. First, I think let me start there. I think it's very important to know that a lot of similarities, because the principles of audit, for example, do not fundamentally change whether you're doing it for an Indian entity or a US entity.
Maybe the degree changes. You need to be a chartered accountant.
You need to be a CPA. There are differences, but there's a lot of similarities.
Absolutely.
Too. So I think those hold you in good stead for you to have that confidence to say that, hey, if I want to explore a career in US markets, in the UK markets, in public accounting in Australia, I think you have the opportunity, because your core primary skills that you have built will hold you in good stead to be able to take on whatever the challenges, whatever the new learnings that you may have. You may have certain things that you have to unlearn and relearn, but it gives you that foundation. I think the core that I would say, what has been different, I think, is the amount of ownership that you would have to take. Especially when you're not in the same location as where your client is, right? From an India perspective, you're pretty much in the same client location. Your work timings are the same. You're in office at the same time, pretty much your client is. But working for foreign locations, whether it's in the US, UK, Australia, anywhere in the world, your timings are not going to be the same. And that means a lot more ownership. It comes down to ownership, because when you have a query, when you have something, you may not be able to reach out.
Even in India, the clients are
24/7. That is very true. That is very true.
The Indian clients expect you to be available on Saturdays and Sundays. I mean,
absolutely.
If there's something to be done, it's to be done.
I think that goes across. That's the nature of business. Business running 24/7 all the time. True. But it is very important to recognize the fact that when you have a query, when you want to talk to the client at 10 a.m. in the morning today, your client may not be, maybe sleeping, may not be around. And how do you then manage that? Sure. I think it's level of ownership you got to take. I need to make certain things, and it also pushes you for doing a lot of planning.
Correct.
Because you need to plan in advance. If you have something right now, you got to say, if I want to deliver something tomorrow, and if I have some queries today, I need to make sure that I have planned in advance. I set up something. I set up a call. It makes you more disciplined, more focused. Correct. More project management skills come into the fore. It's just not technical skills. Project management skills comes into play, and it gives you an exposure. I think fundamentally what you benefit out of it is the exposure. Now you're just not confined to the Indian markets. You now give yourself an opportunity for it to be globally available.
So I become a global accountant right here in India.
Sitting in India. You have now an opportunity saying, if I have built my expertise on US taxation, on UK taxation, it gives me an opportunity and a window for me to work
with US clients.
UK organizations, sitting right here in Mumbai or any city in India. that gives you a global outreach, which is just fabulous. It gives you multiple opportunities how you want to build your career. It gives you other opportunities for you to say, hey, I have done this, I would like to pivot, and I would like to take up something else which I can gain expertise on. So I think it gives us it opens up a kind of I would say almost an unlimited amount of opportunities and doors that you can access based on where you are and how you want to build your career. It's just not saying if I have no other option. It gives me so many variety of options. It's like a buffet table. I have so many options that I can pick and choose what I would like to have. But each of it is going to have its own requirements. I think it's very cognizant to people to be cognizant of the fact that it doesn't mean that I'm going to get best of everything. You need to know what's relevant there, what's going to happen there, and how do you make sure that you're aligned there. I think that is very important. If you're going to take up something on the UK side, on the US side, well, then build your focus there. Build your qualifications. For example,
do your CPA. I mean, that's exactly where we started
exactly.
with, right? I mean, GCC is expanding in India. They need talent. And
you need to speak the same language.
Exactly. So you want to be an auditor or a tax guy in India. Of course, chartered accountant is the Indian black belt, and we say, CPA is the American black belt. Or the global black belt with a lot of US companies. So how important is CPA for you at EisnerAmper? Both in terms of hiring or L&D. Sometimes you don't have enough CPA talent, and you try to get folks and encourage them to get on the CPA track. How important is it for you as a leader in the India office? How important is it for your US colleagues? And does it make a difference when you deal with US clients?
It is important. Let me say how structurally it makes it important as well. I think in both in the US as well as in India, we encourage all our colleagues to take the CPA course. In fact, it's a program that we run, and we have a lot of reimbursements and other programs that is built into our policies, which will allow people to take the CPAs, and the firm sponsors and supports everyone's endeavors to take the CPA. So I think that's fundamentally at the core of sets the tone.
Even hiring a lot of CPAs?
We hire a lot of CPAs. We're bringing in talent. And fundamentally, the reason we look at, yes, we have chartered accountants, but we also look at CPAs for them to take on. Even if you're a chartered accountant, we encourage people to take CPAs, to do their CPAs. Because then you understand the language. Coming back to that, you speak the same language.
True.
And it gives an instantaneously more, I think a very subtle manner is within the firm, people might recognize, and you can educate people what a chartered accountant is and what they do and what they bring to the table. But especially when in the way we built our practice, which is heavy client facing, a client sitting in the US, it's a lot of education that we'll have to provide to the client to understand what a chartered accountant is. While a CPA is a very well recognized term, and they would know what is the level of person that I'm talking to. It immediately sends a benchmark, right? I'm a qualified CPA. Okay, I know who you are and what your capabilities are. And that helps set the tone. And that's why we fundamentally promote it, because it's an instant recognition. What does any qualification really represent? True. It's instant recognition of your capabilities. And that's what the CPA does. So at our firm, we have been promoting people, to say, take up your CPAs. And we are looking for CPAs to join because they bring in their expertise and they bring the relevant expertise. So that's core of what we do. And that's why I said, from a policy perspective as well, we have defined that so that we're able to support people taking our CPAs. And it's not limiting to CPAs. We would, depending on where they are looking to build their careers. If there are individuals on the tax side who may want to do a CPAs and also take up enrolled agents. Be enrolled agents. So that's a program that we support as well. If you have on the outsource side and if you're looking at the advisory, what is relevant for them? Are you looking to do your CISA? Are you looking to do your CMA? What is relevant? How can we support you in building your level of expertise, in building your career? I think that's how we look at it at a firm. There's not one universal qualification which is going to fit everything. Yes, there are certain things. We have on our corporate advisory, corporate finance team and the advisory team where CFA is the most relevant qualification. So how can we help you support that? Sure. How do you build your careers? How do you build the expertise? If you're a qualified CFA, you get in front of a client, the client is instantly going to recognize what you bring to the table.
Correct.
And CPA is more pervasive, I would say, in that regard. But that's, it's a very important aspect that we look at, and we're looking to hire more and more CPAs and more of our current team members to take up the CPA qualification. It's going to help them grow. It's going to help our clients grow and ultimately help our business grow.
So now with a professional qualification like a CPA, right? It's a good qualification for me to get a foot in the door.
Yes.
Let's say I got into EisnerAmper as an accountant. How is the role evolving with technology, right? How are the skill sets really evolving? How much are you leveraging tech within the firm in terms of processes, for your clients in terms of products, especially advisory, or even while you perform the traditional assurance or tax services, right? So how does the skill set of an individual, an accountant that you hire, that you see will evolve or has started to evolve or will continue to evolve with technology, with AI?
It's a great question, because I think that's really a mindset shift that is happening right now. Some of it has already happened, and I think it will continue to happen. Just being technically proficient is not going to be enough at this. In this day
Sometimes
and
I'm
age.
like a chartered accountant, I'm a CPA, I'm like, hey, I've done it.
Yeah, you arrived. Yeah, but you need to really, for you to succeed, there's got to be other things that you need to do, because embracing technology, and in whatever form that might be, whether it's AI or anything else that has happened, and the way we look at it, and if you take a step back, and I know there's a lot of hype about AI and everything that's happening around, but even if you take a step back before you get into that, traditionally as accountants, and I would break it down to the basic tools before Excel. Because a lot of accountants will swear on Excel, as you probably can imagine.
I would.
Before Excel, a lot of the stuff was done manually on on calculators and on other tools that are available, right? When an Excel came in, it did not threaten the accountants. All it made is, and it gave more power to the accountants to say, here is a more efficient technology that is available to you for you to deliver the results that you need to deliver in a more efficient manner, in a more accurate manner, and makes you be able to do more at the end of the day. How are you looking to spend your time? AI is the same thing. I think it's obviously an extension of what I just talked about, a simple Excel compared to AI tools that's out there. But I think it fundamentally comes down. That's how I would want accountants to take a look at it. I'm using the Excel analogy because Excel is something that all accountants are very familiar with, and we keep it very close to our heart. AI is exactly the same thing. When you approach it that way and say, here is an opportunity for me to upskill myself on tools which is going to make me much more relevant, much more efficient, and I can spend the time. If I spent 50 hours doing a particular engagement with certain technologies, here's an opportunity for me. If I'm able to enhance my skills, if I'm able to leverage that technology to the best optimal level, I can do that engagement in 30 hours. And now it gives me a window of 20 hours. What do I want to do with it? I can do some other courses, technical courses. I can take on more clients. I can take a more broad-based clients, build my level of expertise, my level of knowledge, or I can look to do other things. I can spend the time in other ways as well. It gives you the opportunity to do more. I think that's what I see as a landscape. So I think confining yourself to a qualification from a professional qualification, I think is going to be limiting yourself.
Correct.
I think that's how you got to look at it yourself and saying, do I want to limit myself, or do I want to give myself the window of opportunity for me able to do more? And I think whatever technology that might be and whatever is relevant for you, I think is for you to embrace that and not see it as a threat, not see it as something that is being forced upon, but your ticket to do more, ticket to have more.
So Karthik, you were talking about now that you have a chief AI officer at Eisner. So tell us more. I mean, how is the firm looking at evolving, with AI, with technology? I mean, what are your priorities? And of course, if I'm a talent within the firm, I want to sort of keep up or maybe do better.
I think AI and everything related to AI is here to stay. And I think first we have to recognize the fact that where do we stand in terms of AI, and do we have the in-house expertise? And we may have a lot of knowledge. I'm not denying that, but sometimes we need direction, and sometimes we need to bring in the subject matter experts.
What do I do with AI? I know I can write good emails with ChatGPT. What
Exactly. Well, but that's not even going to get you so far, right? So how do you go kind of scratch the surface, beneath the surface? How do you go beyond it? And you look at the layers and say, hey, what can we do here? I think that's the primary reason, and that's a thought process where our firm had in saying, we need a subject matter here who is going to lay down the vision, lay down the execution phase of how we're going to get there, and look at it from an all pervasive manner. And that's why we recently in the last 45 days we have our chief AI officer who's joined us, and it's very exciting times for us because he is now looking at every little operation, every little client that we have, and looking at how we're doing things and saying, hey, how do we build our use cases? Which are the best use cases that we can have in the tax environment, in the audit environment, in our process management office, and take a look at it and say, what can we do here? I think that's fundamentally looking at just not looking at emails and say, how can we use AI rather than how can we integrate AI into everything that we do? How does that become part of our day-to-day rather than looking at avenues, okay, I'm doing these things, where can AI help? Instead of looking at it from that way, embedding AI into everything that we do.
And how much is almost in India office, India GCC, working on those AI projects? So if I'm an accountant in your EisnerAmper India office, Do I get to work on such projects?
Everything that we do is global. So I think that's the heart of everything that we do at EisnerAmper and EisnerAmper India. So when there is an AI team that is getting built out, we already have a team of members who already signed up and said, hey, I would love to be part of this global team where I can add value from, just not from an India
I
perspective.
can have a day job and I do this as well.
And this will become your day job at a later point in time, saying that, hey, if I'm able to add value, and if that's something I'm passionate about, I can bring those skill sets to the table and I can acquire those skill sets. This will be my day job. And that's what we want to do. And so we are looking to build, I would say, task forces within the teams. And of course, now broken down by various departments and all of those. And looking to see, because they're the subject matters. They bring the subject matter expertise of why this gets done in a particular manner. And then being able to add that or provide the reasoning behind that to our technology team and say, okay, this is why it needs to get done. And how can we make that as a use case now? And the technology team and the business team. And so you have an opportunity for a lot of business analysts who are going to bridge that gap. And like you rightly said, there are people who might be more inclined and say, I think this fits exactly what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. I can add value to the table here. And that's what we're looking to build now. So I think it's very early days, but we're very excited too at the same time, because it gives us an opportunity now to pivot and say, hey, we have the technical knowledge, we have technology now, and how do we now marry those two together? And I think from what I'm hearing and from what I know, I think we are building a huge bank of use cases that we have identified, and I know that we are probably looking to now prioritize and say, how do we start working on first? So I think in the next month or a couple of months, I think we'll have that list drawn out for the firm. And I'm very excited personally to see what that list looks like and what those use cases are going to look like. And our teams here, right, in whether it's a technology side, whether it's a functional teams, correct, are going to be integral part of that team. I'm going to make up that team and going to bring that impact not only to our colleagues here in the practice, but to our clients as well. So I think it's a great opportunity. And I'll tell you this is a very it's an anecdote that I want to share, and it's a great example. And this is going back to the start of the pandemic and when we started coming back out of the pandemic. One of the things that everybody knows in the pandemic and which is currently in vogue is your hoteling system, right? From an office perspective. What we started off as a hoteling system for our own offices. One of our colleagues in the advisory space built out a hoteling system, how efficiently you can monitor it, how you can sign up for, make sure that I'm coming into the office today, all of those the nuances of that. We built it out and it was highly successful. Wow. Using technology, sure, right? And it may not been AI, but it was technology. Yeah. We did it so well that we said a lot of our clients then started coming back into the office. And it was one of the client calls that we had where to the partner they were saying, hey, I'm trying to get back people to the office. Our leases have changed. We had going to given up some of correct, the office space because we didn't need it during the pandemic. We are looking at to see, we had adopt the hoteling system. We have limited space. We have more people than the space. Correct. We're trying to find out a solution. And we said, hey, we are using that too. We have the same problem. We have something here. It works for us. And actually that led to the fact that, okay, if you have a system, would you mind showing it to us? And nice, that became a product or a solution that we were able to provide to our clients. I wouldn't say that we marketed it very extensively, but it gave us an opportunity saying, if you can find a solution. It
shows how innovative you are as a firm.
We can say, okay, if there is a problem that is there, what is the fundamental problem that you're trying to solve? And that problem is not unique to us. Very rarely it's going to be unique to us. If we are having a particular problem or a particular issue, the challenge that we're working with, I'm sure somebody else out there is there. If so you have found a solution, it's an opportunity for us to, and that's a way of thinking more than anything else, that how can we take this solution and probably offer the solution to others as well. And that's what we ended up doing. And we had a handful of them where we reached out and said, hey, we have a solution here. We would like to, if you're interested and if you have a need, here is our solution available. We can help you configure this. We can help you set it up and run this for you. And that's what we did. I think that's what we're looking at too. It's just not looking at internal processes and things from our nature, from an AI perspective, but looking at more broad-based and saying, what is the underlying challenge? What is the underlying efficiency? What is the underlying problem that we are trying to solve? I think one of the things is, the things that we want to say, and it's a culture that we want to bring within the firm is many times, I think traditionally, we always fall in love with the solutions.
Correct.
What we're trying to change is not fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem. Fall in love with the problem because, and so that you're always looking at more solutions. Correct. And enhanced solutions. You're not married to a solution.
Correct.
You're looking at more solutions for the same fundamental problem. And that's a change that I think that we are trying to bring in. And I think AI and some of the other initiatives will help us bring that.
So now sort of getting to the root of, GCCs, right? And you said the problem statement, right? And for a lot of US firms, including, of course, EisnerAmper, one of the challenges that firms faced before the entire GCCs really scaled up in India is the accountant shortage,
Yeah.
right? So in the US, you have the boomers who are retiring. A lot of Gen Zs don't want to get into accounting.
Yes. They don't
Again,
see accounting as a
there
cool
aren't as
option.
many cool accountants as
Yes.
yourself, Karthik. So again, so the deal is, right. So and there was an article in the Washington Post, which headlined, the accountant shortage threatens capitalism's future.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one of the major solutions for firms in the US was, okay, I can't find talent in the US, and there's a great talent pool in India. So set up GCCs, and again, you've scaled up really, really well. And there are a few others who've done a good, commendable job in terms of building the ecosystem here. So that was solution one in terms of can't find accountants in the US. Build an extended office in India and find talent.
Yeah.
And now we have technology.
Yes.
Right. How do you see offshoring GCCs in India and or technology as a solution? Can I use AI to sort of solve for this accounting shortage problem? How do you see talent overseas, talent in India, Indian accountants helping you or using technology? So how does the US leadership see this? Is it either or? It's a combination of both. I mean,
I think it's a very fundamental question that you're asking. Does technology, if I kind of try to paraphrase that, is technology going to replace the accountants in India? Right? I think,
or even in the US, or
in the US.
Yeah.
I think that's where I go back to the Excel analogy that I use. Right? I think it's the accountants. It not be an answer that many people may want to hear, but I think the accountants or anybody who's going to, technology is here to stay, and technology is going to evolve. The only thing that you can do is keep pace with the technology. And technology is not going to replace anyone at what they're going to do. It's just going to make them better. So the accountants who are going to embrace that technology, who are going to adopt that technology, are the ones who are going to thrive, and just not survive, are going to thrive. But if somebody is going to be resistant, somebody is going to be hesitant in adopting those technologies, it's very difficult for you to be efficient. Because if Varun and Karthik sitting here are two accountants in the tax team, Varun has taken up the new technologies, is more familiar, is more hands-on, and he's able to adopt those technology and use the technology in delivering what he needs to deliver. And Karthik sitting here has not learned those technologies, continues to work in a traditional manner. In the long run, who's going to get more work and who's going to grow in their careers? It's going to be Varun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's simple as that. And it's not because the technology replaced Varun. It's that Varun adopted the technology, and hence he was able to grow in his career. I think that's fundamentally how you need to take a look at technology. And I think, I do hope, and at least within our firm, that's how we look at technology. Technology is an enabler. Technology is a facilitator, and it has always been. It's not something new. The terminologies might change. Machine learning, AI, all of those are terminologies. Bots are all different dimensions of technology. But at core, right from the Industrial Revolution is technology. Technology has always existed. It just had in different forms and different names.
So what you're saying is India GCCs would continue to grow. And perhaps leverage a lot of technology to transform processes.
India, the second part that I would say, India is again in a prime position, because when you look at technology, keeping the accounting side away, just looking at technology, India is one of the biggest hubs for technology in the world. And India is the biggest hub for accounting in the world. So, you have the two biggest hubs, I would say, or the two biggest pool of resources available here right in India. So it's a win-win situation, because you have all the technology giants here in India, and you have a great technology talent pool that sits right here. So for us to be able to leverage both, we are in the prime spot, and we should double down on that. We should be able to embrace those technology and say, how can we get ahead? And I think from that perspective, from a strategic perspective, India offers that solution, because India is a great place where technology continues to grow.
So how do you, as a leader, as a flag bearer for India's accounting talent within EisnerAmper and beyond, how do you pitch India as a story? So when you're talking to your US teams, US leadership, or you're talking to US clients in many cases, how do you pitch India? How do you pitch Indian talent?
I think the simple...
You carry a flag. I'm just
we have done that too. We've had one of our partners. We worked with one of our partners. I'll tell the story and I'll answer the question there. We had one of our partners actually put up in their backdrops the Indian and the American and the Indian flag as well. So it's small things, but it adds a touch. But I think the way we pitch is that fundamentally the accounting talent that's available at the core of it, right, are people who are very, very capable. Whether you're doing a CPA, and CPA obviously, like we talked about, right, is a big a catalyst for that because it instantly gets recognition. But they also see the Indian chartered accountants. And not even if you're not a chartered accountant, even your qualification from a graduate and postgraduate level, all of that adds a lot of value. And I think what they see fundamentally and what we tell them is these are people who want to do that work, who want to learn, who want to grow. I think that's at the heart of it. Like we talked about the shortage talent in the US, right? From the accounting space.
That's a fundamental problem, which is
that is not the fundamental problem here, because here people are signing up because they want to do this. They're not coming into the accounting world because they have no other choice or because they're being forced here. It's many of them, and there may be a section of that, but most of them are coming here because that's what they want to do. This is what they believe will help them grow in their careers. This is what they help them learn and grow. So when you come in with that fundamental mindset, you're always looking for opportunities. You're not doing this because you have to do it. You're doing this because you want to do it. And that's a big switch. So when we talk to our clients and even anybody in the US, the key things that we tell them is competency is going to be at par. You have the same level of competency that you would have as an accountant sitting in the US, and that's where the CPA, the enrolled agent, all the global qualification certification comes into play. So that's one story. We have all our all our
baseline
members that we set up. The second thing we do is they're all going to have great in communication, because communication is key. I may be, like as we talked about, right? I may do great work for my client, but if you're not able to communicate that with my client, it kind of defeats the entire purpose. It doesn't give you the ultimate result that you were looking for and the ultimate experience that you're looking for. I think that is one of the things that we take them. Hey, here are people who are going to sit and talk to you, who are just not going to send you emails. They're going to pick up the phone, they're going to call you, and they're going to tell you what's best. And the third part I would say with the technology is they're going to be advisors as well. They're just not going to be partners. We're going to be advisors as well. Hey, here is something that's available. Why don't you look at this solution? The case in point, I talked about the hoteling system, right? Correct. It's just not about saying that, here is a solution, here is what you asked, here is what I've delivered. Here we can use technology to add value to you, to your business, to your problems. Here are solutions that we think might be helpful. And I think that becomes just when you're transitioning from just being initially, I think we look at it more like a service provider to a partner to an advisor. And at various points in time, we may have to wear different hats of those. But that's what we from an India perspective, we are just another office of EisnerAmper, which is not sitting in the US mainland. We're sitting a few thousand miles away, but we have the same ethos, the same drive, the same culture.
And a super amazing talent pool.
Of course. And to top it off, and a very, very young talent pool. I think that is an important aspect as well, because you talked about people signing up in colleges, right? The average age of our team members in EisnerAmper India is less than 30.
And what's the average in the US, if I may ask?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it's probably going to be in the mid 30s. Would be my guess at this point in time. So I think so the young talent who wants to do more, and because of when you have that young talent, they're hungry and more. I think relevant. Going back to technology, they adopt technology much easier.
They're digital natives. They really adapt to technology.
They already are very comfortable, and it's for them. It's part of life. It's not even something they have to learn or they have to go out and do something. It's not even an alien term for them. It's part of their daily life. It's what they do. So technology for them comes naturally.
So how's the energy and vibe that you see in EisnerAmper? I mean, you see a lot of energy. I mean, is that young talent keeping you young?
Oh, absolutely. I need to be, considering all the gray hair that I have, all the young talent.
I know you color your hair. But
yeah, you got to look wise than what you are. But it definitely helps. I think the vibrancy and just the energy that they bring in and the outlook they have. I think when you talk to them, I think the way they look at the same, when you look at a particular thing and when they provide their point of view, it helps us stay aware more than anything else of how do you approach things. You may have a point of view and you may believe that is the right point of view or that the best point of view. But when you hear, from some of the younger minds, how they look at the same thing, it gives us an opportunity to find a window saying, oh, that's an interesting way to look at the same thing. And it helps you grow. It helps me grow definitely for that in that regard. And it generally energizes everyone around. Because everyone wants to do more. Hey, these guys are doing that. Hey, I would love to do something like that. And it kind of sends a little bit of healthy competition within the team members, within all of us, and saying, and we've done that. I'll give you an interesting program that we ran. We did this for a little of our senior colleagues, both in the US and India. When new technologies came into play, a lot of them were like, hey, we don't really know how to do it. And we watch the videos, we watch the tutorials, we've done all of that, but you don't really get the grip of it. So we said, hey, we're going to do a masterclass where some of our junior members who are more adept in that technology sit with the most senior people, including our partners.
Interesting.
And we are going to help you get comfortable with that, with a new application, with a new tool. How do you navigate this? And it's live. So we get on a call. and we're going to say, how do I use this? For example, let's pick a simple example. How do you use Copilot to drafting an email or reviewing an email? And what are the kind of questions I can ask them? What are the features that they would have that I can fine tune the content that I'm writing?
And the younger folks would love.
And the younger folks would say, here is how. And what it also helped is that I then gave a lot of senior people insights into their capabilities. And it also helped break down, you get comfortable with people because no longer you have the stigma, who is a partner.
Correct.
I'd be very careful how I talk to that person. Now you can approach them as a colleague. And I think that is fun. That's very core to what we do. But it helped even more. I think it's just not limited to the fact that they learned and they integrated some technology. It kind of broke down the barriers of saying we're all one firm and there are skill sets that you want to bring. Somebody who's more experienced, but there are also skill sets somebody who is fresh out of college brings to the table, and it's an opportunity for us to recognize that and basically add value again to our senior colleagues. Mm-hmm. So it's a great story all around. I think that's what we're trying to do, and I think that our average age is something that we're very proud of. And one of the other things that I think I should say that we're also very proud of in that is our diversity, our gender diversity. Our EisnerAmper India office overall runs at about we're coming up to close to 50% diversity that we run in EisnerAmper India, and that provides a great opportunity. The diversity provides different perspectives, and that helps us grow and that helps us learn. And I think it's and on that launch, I think I want to say today. In fact, today we are starting off our indoor sports fest within all our 4 offices. So it's a week long. It's all indoor. So we have ping pong, table tennis. We have darts.
What do you play? What will you win?
I'll win. What I'll win, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to win, but I'll definitely participate in some of those. We have darts. We have chess. We have carom. And I'm missing one more sport, but we have foosball. Yes, we got to bring some of the America back here in the US as well. So we have foosball as well. But it's part of the energy that drives. I think it's a beautiful week. I'll tell you in terms of and something which I really enjoy. It's just not about the energy of the people playing. It's the amount of people who come to cheer them up as a team. I think that's the best part of what the indoor sports fest. That's what I truly love. It's just not about who's playing. Varun and myself could be playing a ping pong match, but we want to have 20 people around us. Some of them cheering Varun, some of them cheering me, and have a friendly banter as well. I think it brings camaraderie. And that's what creates true bonds and true relationship. I think that's the best part of what these kind of, when we have a young crowd and the activities that we do with those young crowd.
That sounds very exciting. It doesn't sound like an accounting firm or a CPA.
Well, we do our best. We try to imbibe all the best practices that we can do apart from all the accounting and audit work that we do and the tax work we do. We try to bring in everything. But I think it's important. It's relevant. I think it's part of the value proposition that the task force that's coming in I think not only in EisnerAmper, I think I would say across the board. It's something that they look for and then saying, what are we looking to do? In fact, one of the questions that this is again, I think I mentioned.
Now, typically, I wouldn't see that in a CA firm. And I just sort of comparing, right? I mean, it's maybe a little bit of a cultural shift. And I'm not saying Indian CA firms won't do it. I mean,
they do other things as well. Yeah. But I think it's part of it. And one of the fundamental, I remember this is an interview that I was taking for a fresher out of just passed.
Typically, when I think of a CA, I know I'm supposed to be working 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day. 50 hours is too less a week, right? It's 70, 80, 100 hours a week, right? So you're ready to work hard. You're signing up for that.
Correct.
I mean, whether you do an articleship or you're just in there.
I think what people have to understand is there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place when you have to put in those hours, put in that hard work, put in your focus, and there's a time to unwind as well. I think that's what we look at and saying this is a time to unwind.
But as an accountant, I don't really expect any time.
That's something that we're looking to change as well. There are times that you need to focus, put your head down and do what you need to do. But at the same time, you need to let loose and have a good time and play and do what you need to do. And that's a culture that we have built. Amazing. There is, you got to focus on what's appropriate at that point in time.
Amazing. This is great, Karthik. So Karthik, we started Miles about 14 years back, and one of our agendas was, of course, the Indian Black Belt accounting qualification. You're a chartered accountant yourself, right? It's like, succeed with Indian firms, with Indian clients, you need to be a CA. And then, for us, the messaging was, hey, you have a lot of US work coming into India. And, one of the playbooks for us was tech, right? You can't, when the largest of tech companies were not able to find tech talent there, they looked at tech talent in India.
Yeah.
Same thing in public accounting or finance and accounting, right? Even industry. They can't find talent in the US and they look at Indian talent. And to be prepared to service, let's say American clients, US clients in this case, you need to have a CPA, right? I mean, CA is great from an India perspective. You need to have a CPA. And, we really went around, created the ecosystem. We've trained tens of thousands of, CPAs in India. And of course doing a lot more. I mean, we're finding it difficult to catch up. There's more demand than the supply of CPAs that we are able to build. And of course, we're trying to do. We always say miles to go. But what's your message? To a lot of these accountants, in India who are looking at various tracks, CA or CPA, what's your message to this young generation who's, early 20s trying to figure out, is accounting the thing? How do you really be set up for success?
I would say that India is poised, if it is already not, the accounting capital of the world. So if you're going to choose accounting, no matter what stream and what branch you're looking at, if you're a student right now in India and in the age category that you just mentioned, there is no other better place to be. I think the opportunities are almost, I would say, limitless. You just have to pick, and you have to be clear in what you want to do. I think that focus and that clarity is something you will need to acquire. Sometimes you may have it on day one, but you may need to acquire that over a period of time. I think also look to understand that instead of being a generalist, it's very important to have, you should have general knowledge, but you should also have a specialist. And that's where the qualification comes in, right? Because it tells you that you are specializing in a particular stream, in a particular department. I think that is one of the messages that I would want to say, is that be very clear in terms of how you want to build your career. You want to build your career in US accounting, CPA, I think is your go-to degree in that regard. You want to build out something else on the advisory side, on the technology side, on the information system side, then you got to pick the qualification which is relevant for that. But I think going through that qualification, I think is very important. I think that for the reason that we already talked about, right? It's an instant recognition.
Correct.
But it also gives you value because you are going to have that expertise. Yes, you may have a peripheral knowledge of what an information system audit looks like. But unless you do the qualification,
Correct,
you're not going to have the in-depth expertise that is going to have. And that is where you're going to add value. Why would somebody hire you, or why would be able to come and say, hey, I would like to have Karthik on that particular team, is because of the expertise that you bring to the table. And that specialization, I think, is going to be critical.
So I have limitless opportunities and I'm going to just choose one track. And
you can switch. Nothing wrong in switching. But you got to be fundamentally, if this is the track that I'm going to take, I'm going to put in all my efforts to make sure that I can be the best in that particular department, in that particular field. I think that's how we need to approach it. I think build that clarity, and you may take some years to build that clarity, which is absolutely perfect, which is nothing wrong with that. But once you have that, double down on that. In terms of when you look at the qualification, when you look at building expertise, and just not limiting to qualification, you got to have continuous education. It may not be a certification, but that's why you have the CPE, right? In any professional course, why is there such a big stress on CPE? It's not because you just got the qualification. Or how do you stay relevant in terms of what's happening? You may have done the qualification 10 years back. What you studied may not be even part of the curriculum.
Education, right? Continuing professional
Correct.
education. Which is formal, informally as well.
Correct. And it's not even part of the curriculum right now. If I would open the CA books right now, and if I open my CA books back in 20 years back, I'm sure half of the curriculum I won't even recognize. But that is part of staying relevant. And so when you do your continuous education, the professional education that you need to have, that's your way. And understand that, I think you made a comment, right? I have done my CPA, I've done my CA, I've arrived. I think truly understand that it's a journey. It's not a destination. You may have certain milestones, which is what these are, which is when you're getting a qualification. But those are milestones. Those are not your final resting points.
That's why we call ourselves miles.
Exactly. I was going to say that that's a great way that, for you to be able to to brand and market and get the message across as well. And that's what people need to know, that you are always going to be, you are signed up for a lifetime of learning. And I think that is very important. And the folks who invest that time in that learning and relevant learning in terms of what is relevant for you and your areas of interest are the people who will grow and grow ahead, and as well as, I would say, move the fastest as well. It's a pace of growth. It's just not growth. The pace of growth also matters.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Karthik, for taking out time from your very, very busy schedule and really talking about the evolution of the Indian GCC ecosystem and career paths for Indian accountants. Thank you so much, Karthik.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It was wonderful. Thank you for having me.